Hi, welcome everybody for coming to our presentation. This is going to be on our competency model. I'm from the Forbes School of Business and Technology, MBA. I'm the MBA chair. And this model was presented and created over a period of about 5 years. And it started in a marketing program. And then when I moved over to the MBA, we further developed the model. So it's a little bit unique. It's something that I have not yet seen fully developed. So one of the big questions that we have as a program is the quality of education. So one thing that people talk about a lot is, what is the value of higher education on the market? How do you know that you are teaching students what they need to know from an educational standpoint and a curriculum standpoint? And as many are aware, online education has been under scrutiny for, I don't know, about maybe 10 years or so. So we started developing this model as a way to ensure and to show that our students are learning and developing exactly what the market needs. Now, coming from the marketing program, and then working with great people such as Avisha and James Moore, Dr. James Moore, we were able to develop a model using a market analysis. So what we did is we wanted to ensure that from an accreditor's perspective and from a business perspective, that we have students that have the proper technical competencies when they enter the market to create work-ready graduates, so that they feel that they got the value for their educational program, right? We all pay into an MBA. MBAs are not cheap. And when people take these courses, usually they're more experienced and have a number of years of experience, practical experience that they bring to the course. And we want to hedge that, and we want to strengthen that. So by the time they get out, we've enhanced their opportunities in life. So we wanted to make market-relevant education. So just a little bit about us as a program. First of all, we're an online program and pretty much focus more on your traditional, non-traditional students that are actively currently working full-time. So, people don't go to campus, they don't do those types of things. We want to ensure that we have strong learning outcomes to show that the program has value. And we want to ensure that the industry needs are being reflected within that program. So the greater that we can make connections between our school and what industry wants from a recruiting standpoint, the better we are, right? So that was kind of the primary purpose. We also have a highly diverse population. I'll get into that before. Probably more diverse than most programs out there. And that comes with the nature of being an online program and having open access. So the only real criteria you need to have to enter our program is a bachelor's degree. So we don't have any major criteria. We don't have SAT tests. We don't make them do that. And the first assumption that some people make is, well, if you're just going to take anybody, right? Well, then you're probably going to have poor learning, and you're probably going to have lots of drop rates, and you have all these things that just make your program terrible, right? And that's not true. We found out we're the opposite of that. We cost about half the price of most MBA programs. So when you start to get in the upper echelons, a lot of MBA programs are about $60,000. Ours is about $29,000 or less, 28, 27. So that's a pretty good price. We also have standardized curriculum. Now there's an advantage to that that a lot of schools don't recognize, is when we can sort of centralize that curriculum and then give the faculty the ability to use their personal experience. Most of our faculty are practitioner scholars. We actually look for that when we hire faculty, associate and full-time. We want them to have industry knowledge and industry experience so that they can bring that in the course rooms. But the ability to manage the curriculum centralized gives us an opportunity to sort of ensure that the curriculum being taught is in alignment. It gives us the ability to adjust that curriculum. So you'll find that last year we had a 22% increase in enrollment. We're one of the largest MBA programs out there, maybe one of the world's largest. Harvard has about 1,700. Wharton has about 1,900. We have 2174. We're growing 22% a year, which means that students are finding value in enrolling in our program, which is great. The average program had declined 4% last year on MBAs. Now, some MBAs did really well, and they went up, and some went down, but on average, about 4% has declined. And you can see here where we kind of took a dip during COVID, and then we started growing pretty radically after that. Gender, we actually have more females than men in our program, which is kind of interesting. One of the advantages of that is that people have lots of opportunities, they have lots of roles and responsibilities. They cannot drop everything to just go to college again. So being online gives an advantage for people to sort of time manage and be able to use multiple, be able to have multiple, I guess, irons in the fire in their lives and still be able to go to school. We're also very highly diverse. We serve a lot of African Americans. We serve a lot of Hispanics. Our faculty are also very diverse, which is great, and that creates relevancy in the course because people can relate to their faculty and they can see their faculty as part of them. So having a highly diverse student body and a highly diverse faculty body makes sense in today's world, in a highly diverse country like ourselves. Now, we are seeking to go increasingly global, so when we think about diversity, we think of diversity from a global perspective outside the United States. So we're looking to move increasingly into other markets. And you will notice, and I'm not sure if the numbers come across well, but they are, so for example, Hispanic, you can see we have a pretty good dip there. African American, of course, we still have a lot of Caucasians and white people that take our course, and that's pretty standard in most MBA programs. Our ages are very diverse as well. We're not a traditional student, so we have different kinds of age ranges, and I don't know if you can see it, but 30 to 34 is one of our largest ones. We also have 40 to 49, which is a pretty big one, 35 to 39, 25 to 29. What we don't have is the 20 to 21-year-old because you have to be pretty motivated to be 20 to 21 and get into an MBA program. So we don't have a whole lot. We even have some people that are trying to get it right before they retire, which is fantastic, right? I'm going to go out, maybe they're going to plan on hitting the market another 10 years or so, and that'd be great for the economy. The more people we can get out there in the market working, that's excellent. Now, people will often say, well, you're open access and you take anybody and you're highly diverse, and we've even unfairly heard the term kind of bottom of the barrel. Some people have called the bottom of the barrel. But we use an outside assessment, which is our Paraquin assessments called the CPC exam, because we want to ensure that we are teaching the right skills to our students and that we're doing it in a quality fashion. What we found is that we, both online and on ground, we have significantly beat out most other programs by like 100 points on the major sections of the CPC exam that relate to the MBA. So for example, on the management, we've got 746 as our average. Well, the traditional school has about 592 on the same test. The online school does a little better, 610. Business leadership subsection, almost 800. 639 for traditional schools and 645. For ethics, which we try and create as many ethical students as we can, and we know we need that today, right? It's part of the job and should be part of the job in any executive position. 789, 639 for traditional schools, and 574 for online schools. Then they say, well, maybe your retention's terrible because online schools just stink, right? Everybody drops them, they take them, and they get rid of them, and they don't like them. Not so much. We're at 66%, which puts us in the middle of the top 50 online schools. So the middle of the top 50 for MBA part-time rate retention is about 65. We have 69%. So we did this on a program review. Now the next numbers we have, we're growing about 4% a year in retention. So the next numbers that come out will be in this fall. If we start getting into that 71, 72, 73% range, we're in about the top 10 schools for retention for MBA students, which is pretty fantastic. Now, the competency model is designed around a market analysis. And what we do is we look at the job market. We looked at many different metrics, and I'll go into that. We did basically a market analysis. We looked at job descriptions. We looked at, we had an advisory board. We looked at our associate faculty. We looked at government reports. We looked at everything, and we compiled that into a major report. And what we said is, what do employers want? So if I want to go out there as an MBA grad and I want to get a job, what are they asking for in general? Now, we are a general MBA. We don't have specializations. We're focused on the big picture of what an average person needs when they want to get an MBA. Right now, the thought process is, well, we have a lot of schools, and they charge a lot of ground schools, and they're really good at specializations. That may not be our forte. Our forte may be a good quality MBA that applies to most people that want to get that degree. So we want to ensure that our students, when they graduate, are prepared to take executive positions, at least entry-level executive positions. We're training managers and executives out there. And that's how we formulate our language within our courses. This is how we talk to our students. We want to raise their perception of themselves because our students come from a huge background, Some of them didn't come from the greatest schools. They didn't come from the best backgrounds, and yet they're thriving in the program, which is great. They're being retained, and they're getting high grades, and they're doing well. So we want to ensure that they view themselves as executives and future executives, even on an entry-level level, right? And we get a lot of managers that want to take that next level. We get a lot of students that want to go from, a regular employee and they want to become an executive. So this provides a level of hope for them, right? How do we get there? Well, here's the pathway. If you work hard, you study hard, you keep your nose in the book, you talk to your professors, you engage with your professors, you can succeed. And we want everyone to feel that way. And that has always been our motto, even as an organization, as education is something that if somebody puts their time and they put their grit, should be open to everybody. If they can do it and it's their work, we don't coddle them through. They have to do their work and they have to get the grades that they earned. And that becomes an achievement for them. It becomes a milestone in their lives. And the MBA typically is your, most people don't go on and get a PhD. So for most practitioners, that is sort of their terminal degree. They don't really have any reason to get a PhD. Some of them will, and they do go on, but they don't really have a reason if you're just going to work in the field. You don't necessarily need an MBA. And our curriculum is designed around end users, meaning that we're not going to go into how to do all the calculations, say in accounting, right? But we want them to read financial statements because as an executive, they need to understand the financial statements and they have to understand how they were created. But they're not going to be accountants. They need to understand and utilize research in making decisions for their businesses and for their companies, right? So they have to understand the research process, but they're not going to necessarily be researchers themselves. So they have to be very familiar with the terminology and how to apply that knowledge. And a lot of our practitioner scholars sort of pride themselves on applied knowledge and applied research. And that just comes with the nature of who we are as a school. So we triangulate everything in making decisions. Because our program is highly developed around strategic decision making, and that's something that we want to enhance within our students, So as an executive, you work in an environment that you don't have all the answers, right? There's many paths. You have to go out there and look at the research. You have to go out there and look at what's being said in the news. You have to go out there and look at kind of what's going on in the world, that environmental scanning. And we want to teach students how to do that. How do you make decisions when there's competing information and people are sort of confused? And that is the nature of being an executive in today's world. If you can make those decisions well, you'll thrive. If you know how to deal with people and make those decisions well, you're going to do really well in the world, right? It's those things where you're not so sure, those amoebic things. So we have, when we do our competency modeling, we find out we are very high on critical thinking and strategic analysis, which is great. And that's the beauty of the competency programs, to show what we're actually teaching. So we use this triangulation. We talk to students. We look at the literature. We look at corporate stakeholders out there and what they want. We look at accreditation in government and industry. What are the government reports? What's industry saying that they need? We look at our competitive position as not only a program, but also economically. And we look at focus groups. And there's more. I just didn't put them all on there, but there's more. And so we're able to sort of group these together and come to an analysis, and we break that down to make conclusions about what we need to teach in our courses. And here's some of the other ones: focus group, executive surveys, there's a couple other ones in there, our educational partnerships, alumni groups. So we look at all that information and sort of put that together. Yes, ma'am?
Can you explain who comprises your faculty, and then who is developing the curriculum? Who's conducting this market analysis and putting together the standardized curriculum?
Sure, the full-time faculty are doing that.
Okay.
We do that ourselves.
Okay, so you do have full-time faculty. You're not simply, I've heard of other sort of online programs where they're tapping into faculty at other universities and really don't have a full-time faculty at their university, but you do.
Yes, our faculty are very dedicated to our mission. So we work on this all day, different types of things all day. And it also helps us manage our faculty well. Part of that process is our peer reviews and those types of things, where we actually look at our faculty very regularly to ensure that they're actively engaged in their courses. So yeah, we have full-time faculty. We do that a lot. So this is just an example, and it's really a little bit more in depth than this. But let's say, some of the competencies when we looked at the literature, all right, was kind of like management skills, thinking or critical thinking, how to create analysis, what a leadership is, what communication is, strategic decision making, how to manage financial stuff, how to problem solve. And some of it seems sort of related because they're clustered, but we break them out and we're able to measure those. It's much more extensive than this, but this kind of gives you a picture of how we sort of add them up. We sort of add them up from all these different areas and sort of look at what's coming out the most. And this is another example of kind of how they did that. And this is just a quick snapshot. It's actually a lot more than that, but that's sort of how we do it. And we came up with like these top sort of 5 that came from the industry, not complete industry, but some of that. Management, analysis, financial, risk analysis, these types of things. And then we also vet that through our full-time faculty, our associate faculty, our advisory boards, and a few other places as well. So I just want to give you an example course that we've done this in. And this is a global economics and political influence course. So the course is really designed around economic analysis and understanding how that relates to companies. And then that also relates to the political environment, kind of an environmental scan. And so you'll find that in this course, macro analysis is the highest one we came across in that course. And that's a good thing. That means this was before we designed that course before the competency model was fully implemented. So when we designed that course, somebody had that in mind, that they wanted to relate that to the title, which is great. And we have government policy, which is another influencer for business. So we know that businesses exist within the policies that governments create. Macroeconomics, strategic analysis, financial analysis, environmental analysis, GDP, critical analysis. So there's a bunch of different kind of things in there. And so what we do is we tag each of the activities within our course based upon competencies. Now, what we don't do is force the competency. We let the professor designing the course look at these competencies and put in whatever terms they think reflect that activity. We don't want to force them into a specific competency. The reason is that different professors are going to see these things slightly different, and they're going to use slightly different terminology, and we want that, so that when we analyze them all, we can sort of cluster those things that are related to each other and how they're viewed by our practitioner scholars. So these are not faculty that, say, went to school and college and then became a professor. These are people that typically went to school, got a job, went back to school, worked for a little while, and then decided they want to be a professor. So they have that knowledge. And in this case, one of these that we talked about was inflation, macroeconomics, financial analysis, and critical analysis. Now, each one of our courses also has grading rubrics, so we can determine how well they're learning those competencies as well through those grading rubrics. And that's the beauty of having a somewhat centralized curriculum with the ability of the professor to teach it any way they kind of want to. And then, for this one course, we sort of put these together to see what competencies are the biggest. We're able to sort of analyze that and graph that and chart that. Which ones are taught less. So after we get done designing these courses, after we get done with the entire program, we do what's called a program review every 5 years. So when we go back and redo these courses again in 5 years, we can look at this and say, this is what we're teaching, this is where our focus is, this is where our advantage is as a program, this is where we fit within the MBA market, and how do we go back and ensure that we're teaching those skills that is required by the market. So we go back and look at the market in 5 years, maybe the world has changed a little bit and we need people who are better at finance as entry-level executives. Maybe we need people who are better at using research, or ESG, or whatever it is out there that sort of happens. And now we can look at it and say, okay, so let's adjust these things and make sure that we're teaching them in the proper courses. So the competencies in each DQ and assignment and intro, we are able to map those competencies. We're able to compare that program to the market needs. We understand where our strengths and our weaknesses are in terms of teaching. For example, our soft skills, just from the analysis we've done, we want to improve that. And some courses are really high on soft skills, and some are not so great. But it generated a whole bunch of ideas of how we can improve soft skills within our program. And then we're able to sort of monitor new industry information and curriculum, and we revise that again every 5 years. So it allows us to stay on top of the industry in terms of what the market needs from our graduates. It allows us to understand our strengths and our opportunities, and it allows us to continuously update. So it's not stagnant, it continues to grow throughout every 5 years. Now we are in the process of mapping the entire program. We have a few more courses we have to go. And we have a really great internal sort of software that we created, Dr. Moore created for us. And it allows you to look at any course and where they're learning those competencies. So if we say, where are we teaching that particular skill? We can click a button and it'll show every course that is being taught in, and every place that it's being taught in. And we can just go back and look right in the course right away. We know. So what we found is, for example, I'll just give you an example. We have 3 kind of gateway courses when you enter our MBA program. 621, 622 and 623. So by doing this, we realized the first 2 weeks of our courses might be better off served teaching sort of learning skills. You're socializing them to our MBA program. So the first 2 weeks of those courses might be better served socializing them to the MBA, showing them where to get information, giving them the soft skills they need and the learning skills and the analysis type skills they need in that. And then that would perhaps improve retention, right? Move from 69 to 75 or 80. So we're learning those types of things. So that makes up our presentation. Now, some of the stuff that we have is a little bit proprietary, some of that software stuff. We haven't really shown that yet because we're working out the kinks, but so far it's turning out really well for us. I think it's going to be a market differentiator for our MBA program. And so if somebody, say from, I don't know, Department of Education or from another university says, well, prove to us that you're actually teaching what the market wants and needs. And we'll say, well, which skill do you want? Click a button. Here it is. That's exactly where they're at, for accreditation, for any other reason. This is how we drew the information. We documented it all, where we got the information, what sites we got the information, what reports we got the information, and this is how we analyzed it and created. So we can go all the way back through it. So we're very data rich. And that's kind of the advantage of being online now, is because everything is data rich. We can get data for many things: how long students stay in a course, how many times they clicked into a course, which type of students are dropping out, what their profiles might look like when they drop out. So we haven't quite got to that level, but we can get that information. So is there any questions? Yes, sir.
So you mentioned the word activities numerous times. Are these traditional courses, or are they more activity or project-based courses, or what does the course look like?
Well, some courses are going to have projects within them that they do, and some courses have a few projects that extend from one course to the next course to the next as examples. But our discussion questions are typically around, let's say, a topic, and then they're provided information, and then the faculty and the student engage and debate that information. And then they create a report at the end of the week on what they've learned in those in that activities for that week. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
A couple questions. Is your program synchronous or asynchronous?
Asynchronous, yeah.
And B, to what extent do you integrate technology orientation as a competency, either awareness or fluency in technology in your program?
It's a great question because I just looked at a course and just mapped it out. It's a data course, how to analyze data. And we have sections in there for NACE competencies related to technology. So we can categorize by NACE. And so we know now where that technology is within the course. Sometimes it might be using a specific software. Sometimes it might be using Excel or how to analyze something. So that's the other part that I didn't add here. We were actually able to break this down into hard and soft skills, and then we broke them down into NACE. So when we listed our competencies in each course and we went through them, we then categorized them by hard and soft, and then we categorized them by the NACE competencies. So we can say, okay, where did you learn technology within here? Click, there it is. These are the courses, these are the places that they learn some technology skill. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yes ma'am.
Yeah, you mentioned that you do the market analysis every 5 years.
Yeah.
And I believe this is at the program level, right? The students need these competencies. And then you are also mentioning that you are updating your courses every 5 years. So do you update all your courses at the same time, or do you do them
We scattered them. So there's kind of a couple ways we do this. One is we continue to generate new information. So anytime a new report comes out or something that would make us think about what should be taught out there in the market, we can do what's called a CFF and update the course or that section of the course. The big overview is usually every 5 years where we sort of put it together. But if I'm doing, say, a course on financial analysis or data metrics or something, I would go out there and kind of look at what was needed if I'm reevaluating that course, and I would create that. But the big program level is done every 5 years where we compile that every 5 years. so we can manage the whole program at once, yes.
So do you use textbooks?
Yes, most of our textbooks are online. We used to have the physical one, and usually there's a physical option that students can purchase, but the online ones come with the course. They can click on it and it opens up within the course. Yes, ma'am?
From beginning to end, with the number of students that are starting, how many are graduating? What's the graduation rate in your program? And is this a 24-month program? How long is the whole program?
So the retention rate is the 66 and the 69%. So most of the students that enter the program are staying all the way until the end of the program. The vast majority. And again, when the new numbers come out, we've done a lot of new retention things like retention letters. We've created clubs. We are actively engaged with our students a lot, all the time. We are constantly talking. I just got an email today. Dr. Murad, Professor so-and-so is awesome, and I really like this person. I said, great, and I sent it to the professor, and then I put it in the system, the positive news in the system, so that we can look back at it later. So we're actively engaged in our students, and we want them to share their experiences and their knowledge. We also poll our students at the end of each course. We do a survey, and they can get information. And I didn't include that because there's a lot of data. We have dashboards internally that tell us how well students are learning on each each metric that we use internally, and what students felt about the program from a macro level. So the advantage of kind of having 2,200 students is that we have a lot of data that keeps coming in all the time. So we have a bunch of dashboards we can use when we look at courses and we look at these things, and we go, click, okay, so what does our student population feel about this course? Oh, they didn't like this discussion question, or they didn't like that. And so we can go back and fix those the next time. So we're on this continuous process of growth. Yeah, it never ends.
And the program is what length of time?
Typically, you're going to do it in 2 years. So the biggest risk we have is sort of where or how drop rates are sort of analyzed. And we use that 69% as a traditional way of doing it. But online is a little bit different, because if a student doesn't feel like they want to take a course for 2 months, they just don't take it, right? And they feel like it's a service, right? We come in, we take a course, and we disappear. But now we're doing much better at, say, sending them letters and saying, hey, where are you at? You know, we miss you, come back to school, right? Come talk to me and Dr. Moore and some of the other, let's get involved. And so we have like an MBA club online, and I wish I would have put it up here. Oh, it is up here. So come and join us, interact with our students. We love it. They go on there, we post things, we want people to feel engaged, and we want industry to feel engaged with our students. So we have a club online, and then of course you can learn a little bit more of the program there. Yes, ma'am.
And are there, in terms of the actual modality of the course, I understand it's online, but do they have any specific lecture with the professor that is synchronous, or are the professors lecturing in a video format so that the student can access it after the fact? Or is it purely online where all the work is just submit, and the faculty grades separate to that? I mean, what's the interaction with the professor?
Okay, so we encourage interaction with the faculty as much as possible. We actually check that in our IQR process to ensure they're engaged. We go into the course and we look at it. So under the discussion questions, we have criteria that at a minimum the faculty have to engage. Those that kind of do the minimum, they sort of get weeded out, and those that do more than the minimum, we keep, because those are the ones that are actively engaged in the course. Now, each faculty has some ability to do what they want. Now, what we do when we design the course is we have the curriculum preset for the most part, right? So we can measure it, and we can do all that data analytics stuff. But how that is taught is sort of up to the professors. So some professors do meetings online. Some professors do video recordings. We have one who does a podcast. So there's a lot of different things that professors do. What we ask them is that any meeting that you have, because students can't always attend because they work different kinds of jobs and stuff, is put it online in your course, like a lecture. So we have these announcements, and faculty will create their own lectures in any way they want. Some might do a PowerPoint, some might do a video, a podcast, whatever it is. But we have the standard curriculum that ensures that the quality of the program is maintained no matter what the faculty number does. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Did I see that it's 39 credits?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And is there any credit given or course substitution given for any of those courses? if somebody comes in with, a better management prep?
Well, we have done
You
that
take
and
all
switched out a
majors,
course,
correct?
yeah. We have done that if somebody comes and they have a course that they've taken, that is similar to ours, we can give them credit for that course, yeah.
Do you have many transfers?
I don't know what the percentages are in terms of transfers. I don't do that on our level, so I don't have a specific answer, but I have gotten exception requests, a lot of exception requests, and they're more or less on the lines, can you accept this course for this course, can we switch this one out? And we just make a decision as faculty if we can allow that to happen, yeah.
I think a related question to what she was asking, do you accept anyone from any backgrounds, like you said earlier, regardless of their orientation, and if they don't have a business background, do you maybe request or require remedials or anything like
We have a
that?
couple prerequisites depending on the course, but other than that, no. We're an open access university. And we debated and we discussed how much criteria, because we know a lot of our competitors require GREs and they retire these types of things. And we said, that's not really our market, that's not really what we're looking for. We want anyone to come here and get an education, but they have to have a bachelor's degree, yeah. But we do have other things internally, like writing centers, writing coaches that will work individually with people if there's a problem. We have tutors, so we can refer students to tutors that will work with them one-on-one. So if there's somebody who's sort of struggling in some areas, we can refer them, we can provide resources for them to help. But we haven't had just a few students, but a lot of that, how do I explain it? If they come in and they don't have quite all of the skills they need, typically they pick those up in the first couple courses, and grit is the main factor. If you're average on everything, if you have grit, you can get through the program. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question. On one of your slides, you were saying that you have a rubric. Is that rubric, do you have them set up for each of the courses, and so the instructors have to create their assignments to match the rubric? Or did I misunderstand and the instructors come up with their own rubrics?
You're about half there. So the rubrics are designed around each course activity. So every activity within the course has a rubric. And so when the professor grades, there's a couple ways they grade. They put, let's say, in a paper. They'll put comments in the paper, right? And that's all uploaded into a system. So we have every paper that any student's ever done.
So is the instructor coming up with the assignments?
Nope.
Oh, so you come up with
We
the
create the
assignments.
curriculum,
Okay.
but the professor can teach it the way they want to teach it,
Okay.
with their own lectures and these things. But everything that they do is in a kind of a waypoint system. So they put comments in the paper, they put comments after the paper, and they have a rubric that they can click that assigns points to where they ranked on that, proficient or deficient, whatever they clicked on that, and they can sort of adjust that themselves too to make sure that it fits properly for the student. Yeah. So there's some flexibility. Yes, sir.
What about the career development? I mean, you conduct some survey about once they successfully pass their MBA?
Yeah, so this is a really great question because we're working on that now. We do have a survey that we use internally for our students. So we went through a program review and they're like, do you have an external survey? And we did, I think, years ago, but we're re-implementing that survey now because we want to know what happens to our students afterwards. We do have some, and I don't know, not exactly sure how they're generated. We do have some surveys on the satisfaction with the program and how well they felt in terms of the program. And we do have a couple little student-focused things we do during our program review where we talk to students and find out what they felt about the program. But we kind of want to, so we're generating those questions now, like how much do you earn now? Did you, let's say, bump up, in your job, or did you find the education was relevant to your school, or those types of things. So that's kind of part of what was generated out of this and from our program review was, let's get in touch with our students a year later because we want to develop those alumni bodies also. Because we are also a nonprofit, so we also want to create those industry connections, and we want to ensure that once they leave the school, that they felt that the education was relevant. But most of our students are working practitioners, so they do give us that information at the end of each course if it was relevant to them or not. So they're not just out there blindly, we actually are collecting that actively. But from an alumni standpoint, we're doing that now, yep. Yes, ma'am?
Do you have doctorate programs?
Yes, we do, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so do you have any type of pathway? You know how undergrad has a 4+1 or something like that. Do you have pathways that lead into your doctorate program, or is it completely separate?
So, I don't know how to answer that question perfectly because I'm not the doctorate person, but somebody can from this program move into the doctorate program. And we also coordinate our BABA, our BA, in business. We kind of coordinate that so they can move into the MBA program. We are actively, like say in the last 6 months of their BABA program now, we're saying, hey, we have an MBA if you'd like to come here. And the advantage of the competency model is kind of as a next stage of development is we're going to interconnect these courses better, so it's very seamless, so it becomes increasingly seamless between the courses. And we can do that now because we know where we're teaching what and when we're teaching it. So we can kind of connect those things a little better. Yes, sir?
Is the assessment software that you created, is it part of the LMS?
I don't know how to answer that question. It's integrated. I mean, the dashboards pull data from everywhere in the organization, from Canvas, from the surveys, from information that professors have entered. So it pulls from a variety of places to sort of create those dashboards, but I'm not really the dashboard expert on how that's done, yeah.
And then you have a lot of, and thank you by the way for the presentation, you have a lot of great examples of administrative support, so to speak. So I manage one of the programs and my bandwidth is full, so my question to you is, do you have a lot of administrative support to manage all the logistics of what you described here today?
That's always an open thing. More resources, more resources, more resources. We're always like, and so it's kind of like shooting emails, 107 emails a day. It's like shooting them out to everyone. But the advantage we have is that we have other areas of the organization that pick up those areas for us. So they might do like the surveys for us, and they might do these things. So sometimes it's just a matter of sending an email, and we have an expert that already knows how to do those things, and they just sort of do them for us, right? Which is helpful. But we kind of guide and manage what we want done. For example, the surveys now, the alumni surveys, we're really actively engaged in that. I just sent an email last week on it. Hey, what do you have for examples out there? Because if not, we're going to go out there and search the market and create our own. And we have all the information to go out and contact those students. I mean, we have their personal emails, we have all those things, so it's not hard for us to do it. We're just now moving along that process. We just finished our program review, so this, some of the things that we thought of and that our external reviewers told us, we are now implementing. But by and large, they loved the program, and they felt that it was very unique. They hadn't seen that out in the market on that level yet. So, and that's just the advantage of being in the online data-rich world and having to justify our existence 10 years ago is sort of, we developed from that and we adapted to that. And we created a very, we can justify almost anything in our program if we need to. Yep. Any other questions? Okay, that's it. Thank you. Okay.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
Excellent job.
I got nervous after that.
No, you're not nervous at all.
Okay,
You're
is
great.
it? Oh, it's still going. Okay. Thank you so much.